Hello and welcome to BYJU'S IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. College students across India aged 18 and above who are living in college hostels are more often treated like children. They come under the administrative control of the educational institutions, their rules and their structure. Some rules are so regressive in nature, they hinder individual growth of that student. Female students in particular are more often expected to adhere to these restrictions, regressive rules that are set by the college authorities. One such example is the focus of this article. Let's look into the background. There was one of the petition filed by Fahima Shireen, who happens to be a third semester BA English student of the college at Chellanur in the state of Kerala. The college authorities had come up with a rule. As per the rules that were laid in the girls' hostel, students were restrained from using their mobile phones from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. So all those students who are accommodated in the girls' hostel will not be able to use their mobile phones or use of internet between 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Why did the college authorities come up with such a rule? The college authorities believed that this will discipline the girls. This will avoid distraction due to the use of mobile phones. And further, all these girls would be able to focus on their studies. So all those students who are not abiding by these rules that have been laid by the hostel authorities would have to vacate or they'll be rusticated from the hostel premises. This is when Shireen and few others were sacked from the college hostel after they refused to follow this particular rule laid by the hostel authorities. She was expelled from the hostel premises for not adhering to all these restrictions on the use of mobile phone as well as the internet. She, along with few others, protested against this particular restriction as this was hampering their learning process. How? It prevented the use of internet, which opens the door of wisdom and knowledge. That is when she had to file a petition in the Kerala High Court. She then approached the High Court saying that all these restrictions have affected her learning as she could not access mobile phone as well as the internet using her mobile phone. So a bench of Kerala High Court was acting upon this particular petition filed by Fahima Shireen, and that is when the Kerala High Court steps in. So what did the petitioner say here? According to the petitioner, it violated her fundamental rights that is enshrined under Article 19 of 1 of A, which stands for freedom of speech and expression. Because she was not able to use the internet, because she was not able to express freely, this violated her fundamental rights. That is why she approaches the High Court. The petitioner also highlighted that mobile restriction was discriminatory. Why? Because such practice was not followed in the boys' hostel, but it was only enforced in the girls' hostel, and that is where she decides that this is a gender bias. She also refers one of the clauses as mentioned under the University Grants Commission. According to clause 3.2 of 13 of the UGC, prevention, prohibition and redressal of sexual harassment of women employees and students in higher educational institution regulations 2015, it says that one would not be able to come up with discriminatory practices in the name of security of the women, especially in those of the hostel. What it means is you cannot have one set of rules for the men and the boys, you cannot have other set of rules for the women which are discriminatory in nature, which will have gender bias when it comes to women. So campus safety policies should not result in over monitoring, policing and curtailing of freedom of speech and expression for the women, which also means that they would be able to freely express themselves, is what is put across in clause 3.2 of 13. The petitioner also referred to the Anjita KJOS versus the state of Kerala. According to this particular judgment passed by the High Court of Kerala, it struck down all the gender discriminatory rules in a hostel, observing that girls have equal freedom as much as boys. So what was the background of this particular case? In this case, there was discrimination. Why? Boys were able to participate in the political meetings, they were able to go out for meetings, they were able to attend all the processions, they were able to go out for movies as well. But this was not the same for girl. There were certain restrictions, they were not able to go out for movies, they were not able to attend the political meetings. This is when the Kerala High Court steps in after a petition was filed, and the Kerala High Court says that such discrimination cannot be continued. Look looking at all these provisions, that is violation of the fundamental right, clause 3.2 of 13 of UGC and Anjita K. Joss versus the state of Kerala, the Kerala High Court in the present scenario has held that right to have access to internet is part of the fundamental right to education as well as the right to privacy under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. So the judge of the Kerala High Court observed that the action of the college authorities infringe a fundamental right as well as right to freedom, and this could adversely affect the future as well as the career of the students. She also referred to one of the clauses and declaration made under Human Rights Council of the United Nations. Under this particular declaration, it held that right to access to internet is a fundamental freedom and a tool to ensure right to education. The court also added a word of caution to the college authorities as well, that the college authorities, would be able to come up with rules, structure, regulations to discipline the students, but such rules and regulations should not be blocking the ways and the means of students to acquire the knowledge. Why? Because these are the students who have aspirations in life. They want to open the doors of wisdom and knowledge, so you cannot inhibit by asking them not to use mobile phones as well as access to internet. At the same time, they also said since all these students are above the age of 18, they are majors, and students in the college hostel are adults capable of taking their own decisions, so the college authorities as well as parents will not be able to restrict them, is one of the word of caution that was given by the Kerala High Court. The Kerala High Court also referred to this particular judgment, that is Rangarajan and others versus PV Jagjeevan Ram 1989 case of the Supreme Court. According to this particular case, it said that the Article 19 of 1 of A, which stands for freedom of free speech as well as expression, can be restricted. It can be restricted only for those that are mentioned under Article 19 of 2. What does it do? It stands for imposition of all reasonable restrictions, where the state would be able to impose these restrictions when it comes to the sovereignty and integrity of India, the security of the state, friendly relations with foreign states, public order, decency or morality, or anything to do with defamation or incitement to an offense. It is only under these conditions that fundamental rights enshrined under 19 of 1 of A can be curbed. It is not on the basis of convenience or the discretion that is given to others. Only on these parameters enshrined under Article 19 of 2, you would be able to curb. Article 19 of 1 of A is another key point that the High Court has put across in this particular judgment. Also remember, another important fact for your preliminary examination is that Kerala was the first Indian state to declare internet as a basic human right. And when it comes to the global picture, Finland was the first country in the world to recognize the right to internet access. So this is what we need to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here discusses about the report titled Keeladi and Urban Settlement of Sangamage on the banks of River Vaigai, which was published by the Tamil Nadu Archaeological Department. According to this report, the cultural deposits, the artifacts that were unearthed, extracted during the excavations at Keeladi in Shivaganga district was safely dated back to a period between 6th century BCE as well as 1st century BCE. Now let us try and understand what were the findings of this particular report as published by the Tamil Nadu Archaeological Department. According to the findings of the report, the artifacts, the cultural deposits that were extracted in Keeladi have determined a possible link between the scripts of the Indus Valley civilization as well as the Keeladi graffiti, which is hosting the Tamil Brahmi script. So what these people sense is that there is a possibility of having a close link between the Indus Valley civilization script as well as the Tamil Brahmi script. When you look at this particular picture, the graffiti has some of the alphabets or character which are similar in nature. It is through this that they were able to come to a conclusion that alphabets and certain other scriptures can be similar. What happened is that the Indus Valley civilization was situated in the northwestern part of India, and this was during 5000 BCE as well as 1500 BCE. Around 1500 BCE, the civilization collapsed, which means that there was large scale famine and people started losing out their lives, that is when they started moving from this northwestern part of India down south. So the archaeologists also say that because they started moving down south, there could be a possibility of linkage between the Sangam, that is the Tamil Brahmi script, as well as the Indus civilization script. Further, it also speaks about the urban civilization. When you look at facts currently, people usually consider that Sangam age existed during 300 BC to 300 AD. This is the current observation. However, all those materials that have been unearthed from the Keeladi excavation have also confirmed that this is dated back to 600 BC to 100 AD, which means that this urban civilization, which was thriving on the banks of the Vaigai river in Tamil Nadu, had existed than what is being currently projected. Another major discovery is that people in the Sangam literature were also literates. They were able to read, they were able to write as well. How was this discovered? This was because the names of these people who were residing back then had their names imprinted on the potholes written in the Tamil Brahmi script. The findings also suggested that society in Keeladi had used animals predominantly for the agricultural purposes as well. So what is that we'll have to extract from this article is that Keeladi is in the state of Tamil Nadu, because this can be a prospective question in your prelims. Apart from this, it speaks about the urban civilization, the literacy and rearing of animals for the agricultural purposes, and Sangam age existed even before than what is being taught currently. So it is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about Environmental Pollution Prevention and Control Authority, which is also called as EPCA. The EPCA was constituted under the provisions of the Environmental Protection Act of 1986. This is basically tasked with taking all those measures to tackle air pollution in the National Capital Region, that is in Delhi. So its basic objective is to protect, improvise the quality of the environment, for which the EPCA is also mandated to enforce the Graded Response Action Plan. So what is this Graded Response Action Plan? According to this, there have been certain segregations in order to address air pollution in the National Capital Region. In case the air quality is very poor, garbage burning is immediately stopped, and all the air pollution control regulations with respect to the industries will be implemented. In case the air quality falls in the very poor category, additional measures of stopping the use of diesel generator sets, enhancing the parking fees so that people actually take up the route of the metro and not use private cars, are also established. And in case the air quality is very severe, then there is cleaning of roads that will be initiated, sprinkling of waters on the roads, and identifying all those road stretches with high dust generation so that this can be implemented and reduce the air pollution in this region. So apart from this, the EPCA also ensures that it is implementing the rules of this Supreme Court. So there have been various judgments, various orders that have been passed by the Supreme Court. So this particular EPCA assists the Supreme Court in enforcing all the environment related matters. The EPCA would also be able to take up certain suo motu action as well. In case there is an individual or there is a representative body or an organization which has seen that there has been certain violations when it comes to the environmental sector, they would be able to go up to this EPCA and they would be able to take action and address all their grievances as well. The EPCA in the past has also enforced several measures like closure of the Badarpur thermal power plant, ban on the brick kilns, hot mix plants, the stone crushers, and construction activities in the National Capital Region as well, in order to ensure that air pollution is curbed. What is the composition of this EPCA? Besides the chairman, the EPCA has about 14 members, some of whom are the Environmental Secretary of the National Capital Territory of Delhi, Chairperson of the New Delhi Municipal Council, Transport Commissioner of the NCT, the Commissioners of various municipal corporations of Delhi, and professors at IIT Delhi and Jawaharlal Nehru University. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is basically speaking about the green bonus or a payment for the environmental services. What is the context? The Himalayan conclave was recently held in Mussoorie, and this conclave was to deliberate on the environmental issues that are affecting the Himalayan states. Basically, they were looking into the conservation of the Himalayan ecology, the biodiversity in all these states, and the cultural heritage that these states would wish to carry forward. So who were the participants in this Himalayan conclave? Chief ministers and representatives of all Himalayan states, that is from the state of Jammu and Kashmir, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Tripura, Mizoram and Manipur. Assam should have also participated in this Himalayan conclave, but they were not able to participate because the state was ravaged by the floods. So the participants included about 10 states in the Himalayan conclave. Even before we understand what this article is all about, we will have to understand what is the meaning of the payment for the environmental services. The ecosystem supports the plant, the animals and the human life. It maintains the overall balance in the nature. When everything is functioning properly, we would be able to extract maximum benefits from the ecosystem. These benefits include food, the fiber, the fuel, the herbs, the medicinal plant, genetic resources, drinking water, so on and so forth from the forest as well as the ecosystem. Today, as we conduct these activities, we often exploit the natural resources. We influence the capacity of the ecosystem and we also bring about changes within the ecosystem. So what it means is there is a structure, there is a pristine vegetation and we are extracting maximum benefits from this ecosystem. And why are we doing this? That is because we are benefited from the ecosystem. So as we continue this activity, what we are also impacting is the air quality, the water purification process, the flood control as well as the earth's climate. So you have the pristine nature, we are extracting as many things from the nature as possible, but while doing this we are exploiting and we are also creating an imbalance in the environment. So what is this payment for the environmental services? As we discussed, the environmental services basically include the fuel, the fiber, the goods that are present in the ecosystem as well as in the forest area. While we extract this particular economic good, we are utilizing for our own good. But there are few places in India and worldwide which should not be disturbed because this is a pristine form. So such places where the ecosystem, the nature is not disturbed and as a result we are paying for them, such is what is called as the payment for the environmental services. So ideally they could have extracted all the fuel, the fiber, the food and so on and so forth, but they are not extracting, they are letting go and keeping this pristine vegetation as it is. So because they are not converting this into an economic good, so we are compensating them for the sustainable development of the forest areas. So this innovative approach to nature conservation is what is called as the payment for the environmental services. Now the question is, why are these Himalayan states asking for a green bonus? Why is that they are seeking a compensation or asking for a payment from the central government? The reason being, most of the country's rivers originate in the Himalayas. These states that house these rivers can also be said as the water reservoir of the country. Because they are the water reservoirs of the country, they can use this particular water by constructing the dams. They can take advantages of the hydropower, bring changes in the aquatic ecosystem by exploiting the fishery, and they can also become the hubs of tourism. So all these economic activities can be conducted by these states, but over a period of time they have been avoiding it. The states also have large swathes of land which fall into the eco-sensitive zone where all types of developmental activities are prohibited. This is also one of India's major carbon sink, which also means they would be able to stop or avert soil erosion from the Himalayan region. For all these numerous restrictions that have been laid for these states, because they are not able to conduct their developmental process, developmental work, big projects, they are not also able to destroy forests just for the sake of you and me. So because we are not conducting developmental activities, because we are the carbon sinks for the entire India, that is when we need to be compensated for all these actions. And that is why the green bonus has to be provided by the central government to all these states is one of the key demand. So the first demand of all these states is establishment of a green bonus, and the second one is to do with the establishment of a ministry. So in case there are any problems that these states are facing, all the endemic problems that are associated with the Himalayan states will have to be addressed by this ministry is the second key demand as posted under the Himalayan conclave. This leads to another follow-up question. Is central government not providing incentives to these states? Are state governments not accommodated with money? To some extent, in fact, these states have been getting incentives based on their forest cover. And this is under the Finance Commission formula, which has been established since 2005. According to the 12th Finance Commission, which happened for the very first time, it recognized the need to invest in the resources and it earmarked about 1000 crores for about 5 years to preserve the forest areas. This was followed by 13th Finance Commission recommendation, which also allocated about 5000 crores, and this particular allocation also added another parameter of canopy density. The 14th Finance Commission further upgraded the incentives to all these states. What happened? The Finance Commission also came up with a new criteria, and this criteria was in terms of the forest cover, which also attached about 7.5% of the weight to the forest cover. So what is the issue right now? The Finance Commission has been giving money to all these states, but the major issue is the Finance Commission has been allocating money to all the states of India. So majority of the states which have extracted are not the Himalayan states. Only Arunachal Pradesh figures in the top 5 list when it comes to extraction of money from the Finance Commission. So it means the other 10 states from the Himalayan states are not able to get money that has been given as incentives by the Finance Commission. So as a result, what these states are currently seeking is larger green bonus, larger payment for environmental services, because they are not conducting the developmental activities. So the demand for this green bonus by the Himalayan states is thus not only a valid one but also an ecological necessity. They should demand more, because by giving them more, this will ultimately prevent the disasters from striking the plains region in the state of Uttar Pradesh as well as elsewhere. So what is the need of the hour? The need of the hour is that the central government will have to figure ways, will have to ensure that all these monetary benefits are provided to the Himalayan states for all the conservation work that they have done when it comes to the ecosystem conservation. So it is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about Convention on the Rights of the Child. The world is a beautiful place. It has beautiful souls in the name of children. They have innocence at heart, affection in their eyes, smile on their lips, which makes one fall in love with these delicate darlings. But children are not seen as people who have mind of their own. They'll not be able to express themselves freely. They do not have the capacity to make a choice, and it is this ability that strikes a vulnerability across the children. So because they are not able to make an independent decision, they come under the clout of the parents. That is why in the year 1989, several countries, several organizations came up together and they wanted to make a historical commitment to the world's children. What did they do? They came up with certain legal measurements. They wanted to protect and fulfill the rights of the children. That is when they came up with an international legal framework, and that legal framework is what is called as the Convention on the Rights of the Child. So according to this, the children will not be treated as objects, but those like the living souls whose ideas, whose values, whose developments and flourishments will be taken with dignity. So what it means is they have come up with certain features with respect to the Convention on the Rights of the Children. So what are these features? This applies both equally to both girls as well as boys, and all these kids will be under the age group of 18. So any person who is falling under the age group of 18 will be called as children. Even if they are married and even if they are kids, anyone who falls below the age group of 18 will be called as children. The convention is guided by the principles of best interest of the child, which also means there will be no discrimination. There will be no discrimination on the basis of domicile, religion, caste, race, ethnicity, so on and so forth. And this will also respect the views of the child. It also lays emphasis on the importance of the family. So this will enable creating an environment which is conducive for the healthy growth and development of children. Therefore, in order to bring these three features into picture, it obligates the state to respect and ensure there is a fair and equitable deal in the society. So it is the onus of the government to bring about all changes when it comes to execution of these policies. Then according to this particular convention, there are something called as the immediate rights as well as the progressive rights. So what are these immediate rights? It basically includes all those basic amenities that will have to be provided for the dignity of the child. This includes the juvenile justice, right to life, right to nationality, right to reunification with family. So all those rights that are required immediately for the child in terms of nutrition, food, so on and so forth, at an immediate level is what is called as immediate rights. Then there is something called as progressive rights. This include the health and the education. So these are important features as laid under the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Now let's look into what India has got to do with this particular convention. India signed this particular treaty or ratified this particular treaty in the year 1992. So India has always recognized the category of persons, anyone below the age of 18, as children. In order to accommodate this, the driving license, the legal contracts and all the voting rights have been given to people after the age group of 18. So even the marriage for the girls and for the boys above 21 years also means that India is abiding by this particular feature as espoused under the Convention on the Rights of the Children. But why are we discussing this? According to the context, protracted conflicts, worsening climate crisis, a rising level of mental illness among the young people, and online misinformation are some of the major concerns emerging as global threats to the children, cautions the UNICEF. So what it means is it has identified certain areas where children would be undergoing a lot of vulnerability. So what are the areas that it has figured out? The first thing is with respect to the prolonged conflicts. Let's take for example Syria, or let's take the example of Rohingya. As people move from one region to another region, or when there is conflicts in that particular region, the most vulnerable in this region are the children. This is followed by pollution and climate crisis, a decline in the mental health, mass migration and population movements as we witnessed in Mexico and as we witnessed in people moving from Mexico to United States of America. Then what we also have is the statelessness. When these children are in the conflict area, they are in the state of statelessness, which means they have no nationality, which means the immediate rights of that particular child is also being violated. Then the future skills for the future work. This is followed by online misinformation, which has all been buried and is being vulnerable, acting and enforced upon the children. So because there are a lot of vulnerabilities, lot of areas where children may suffer, there was an open letter which was written by the organization's executive, Henera Fort. She says that according to a present scenario, the misinformation, the fake news and the digital environment are subjugating the children. It means the children are becoming the slaves of the digital environment. They do not know what is right and wrong. It is this that is being taken advantage by the digital environment. The letter further says that in the online environment, truth has become indistinguishable from fiction, where children are not believing the institutions. Children are not believing the educational institutions themselves and are questioning the very existence of these institutions. Further, this online information is leaving the children vulnerable to abuse and other forms of exploitation as well. Let's take the example of the Blue Whale Challenge, or let's take the example of the Momos Challenge. These challenges that surfaced on the online platform have led children to also commit suicides, and they have lost their lives as well. So according to this particular letter, it asks all the countries to take up certain measures. Currently, what we are living is in a digital era. So what we need is not rigid structure, but we need to come up with flexible updates when it comes to addressing all the issues with respect to the children. Further, the UNICEF also says that these children will have to be equipped in such a way that they are able to distinguish what is good and right, and they are able to actively participate in the citizenship engagement. The letter also urges promotion, prevention and therapeutic treatment for all those people who have been suffering because of the mental health issues. They should not be seen as a taboo, but instead they should be taken as one amongst us, and all their mental health issues will have to be addressed, are some of the key measures given under this article. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about Ayushman Bharat. We have a video that we have already uploaded on YouTube, so kindly look into this video. All that you have to do is type Ayushman Bharat with BYJU'S name and you can visualize the entire video and understand the concept as well. Now let's look into some of the prelims practice questions. Consider the following statements. Golden Triangle includes Afghanistan, Pakistan and Iran. Golden Crescent includes Myanmar, Laos and Thailand. Which of the above statements are incorrect? The question here is asking for the incorrect statement, so the answer is both. Which of the following rights are declared under Article 21? Right to privacy, right to travel abroad, freedom of silence. The answer to this is 1 and 2 only. Why? Because freedom of silence comes under Article 19 and it is not coming under Article 21. Now let's look into the next practice question. With reference to the office of profit, the expression office of profit has not been defined in the Constitution or in the Representation of the People's Act of 1951. The concept of office of profit disqualifying the holder was imported from United States of America. Which of the above statements are correct? The answer to this is 1 only. Why? Because it is not imported from USA, but it is instead imported from Great Britain. Why have we picked this up? That is because this article speaks about the office of profit. Now let's look into the next practice question. Look at the following statements. It is dominated by Elbrus Mountains in the north, Zagros Mountains along its western borders. Mount Damavat is the highest peak in the country. Its longest river is Karan. The above statements describe which country? The answer to this is Iran. Why have we picked this question? Because there has been a reference with respect to Iran. So kindly look into the map. You have the Elbrus Mountains, Mount Damavat as well as the Zagros Mountains and Karan River. So we are speaking about Iran here. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which one of the following is likely to be the most inflationary in its effect? The answer to this is creating new money to finance a budget deficit. Now let's look into the mains practice question. Green bonus to the Himalayan states is not just a need but a right they should be guaranteed. Explain why it becomes more important in the current era of climate change. Next question. Children today have become the slaves of digital environment, leading to abuse, privacy violation and loss of lives. Illustrate with example and recommend suitable measures. So please write all your answers on the comment section so that you guys can have a peer review and also come up with constructive criticism in case of any. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.